Why am I not streaming? Thank you.
Hello, this is Roberto. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thanks, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. How this stream is going?
I'm good. The stream is going. I think. Let me see. Yeah, we're ready.
Okay, I will call this special meeting of the Jones LSC to order at 6:02. And Sarah can take the roll.
Okay. 6:02. Andrade.
Present. Sorry.
Omen. I think she declined the invitation. So Violetta. No. Clancy.
Present.
Cresswell.
Present.
Hilbrands.
Here.
Kerr. If you see anyone join later, please let me know. Land.
Here.
Ma Hoppenworth.
Here.
Ma. Here. Martin Zek.
Here.
Menjivar.
Present.
Powers.
Here.
Zen.
Here.
Okay, so we have 3 absent. Since we had that quorum issue, before I take the approval of minutes, we have quorum, so we can meet, but for approvals, we need 8. I just want to clarify that going forward.
Yes.
Real quick,
William?
I think Alex is trying to join. They have the wrong. They are looking at the wrong link. I think they should be here with us shortly. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Violet might be able to join for some, if not actually the whole thing. So we should keep an eye out for her as well.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call Andrade,
Yes.
Clancy,
Yes.
Cresswell,
Yes.
Hilbrands.
Yes.
Is Miss Kerr in yet? Not yet. Land,
Yes.
Mana Hoppenworth,
Yes.
Ma, yes. Martin Zek,
Yes.
Menjivar,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Zen.
Yes.
Okay, the agenda's approved. 11. Okay, so I'm going to do the minutes approvals separately. So I make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 22nd, 2021 LSC meeting, special LSC meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's Clancy seconded. I'll do a roll call for the approval of the February 22nd minutes.
And Sarah, Alexandra just joined.
I see. Yeah, thank you. I will note that 6:05. Okay. This is approval of the minutes. Andrade,
Yay.
Clancy,
Yay.
Cresswell,
Yes.
Hilbrands,
Yay.
Kerr,
Yay.
Land,
Yes.
Mana Hoppenworth,
Yes.
Ma, yes. Martin Zek,
Yes.
Menjivar,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Zen.
Yes.
Okay, those approved. 12. And I do want to. There were comments that we haven't resolved for the February, March 8th regular meeting minutes. I'll share my screen so we can just see if I threw some stuff out there this late this afternoon, but I just want to make sure everyone's okay with this language, and then we can make a motion to approve based on that. So the point of clarification and question more specifically, Mr. Clancy wanted us to add, let me see if I can make this bigger so you can see there we go, the notes. Mr. Clancy requested that we point out that Ms. Ford said that we were technically out of order for sending the email. Sending the letter. And, Cassie put in her comments and then saying that we were asking for charges and removal, not, Ms. Williams Ford stated the letter was asking for charges and removal and so gave the impression that it was sent on behalf of the LSC, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so disagreeing. So the disagreement is that what the letter was perceived intent, versus how it happened. And so I added Ms. Ford's comment that the 3 individuals do not have authority to forward the charges. And that it was the letter was asking for changes and removal and so gave the impression that it was sent on behalf of the LLC. It may not have been the intent, but that is what it reads as. Those are her words I went and listened to the recording. And then I added the letter asked for investigations and removal pending investigation was not signed by all LSC members. The intent was not for the CEO and others to misinterpret a letter signed by 3 people to represent the entire council. So I don't know how you feel about this representation in the minutes. There's a chat, I didn't read it. Okay. So let me know if you have comments, if you want me to change this, we can do it right now on the fly.
Alexandra?
I just think it's really important from this point forward that we pick whether or not we will agree with Ms. Ford's claims, because I feel as if we pick and choose when we agree and disagree with her interpretations, then it doesn't really set a strong precedent for what we stand by and support as an LSC. So I think from this point forward, we should try to just set that standard and decide what we're gonna do.
Roberto?
You're muted if you're talking.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Alexandra, on that point, can you, I'm trying to understand that. So if you could provide a little more clarification, but the one thing that I wanted to mention before you spoke, Alexandra, was this text, is that, Sarah, are you representing that that's like a verbatim transcript of what Ms. Ford said and what Creswell said, or is that an interpretation of what you thought was said?
What I wrote, what Ford said, that is exactly, I went and re-listened to the recording. We also have the transcript. I guess I'm wondering, does this really, I mean, it was Mr. Clancy's question. So does this fulfill what you wanted?
Can I answer that? I don't know. I don't want to speak up.
Yes.
Then.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. And also my camera is terrible, so I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Yeah, I think this satisfies me personally. I think the one thing I do still have questions about is that the original letter had a list of charges in it, and so it may not have been a request to bring charges, but it's confusing if that letter has a list of charges in it. I at least I'm pretty sure that was. I'm trying to find the letter. I can't find it right now. Sorry. So that is something that I'm slightly confused on, which is that this says that the letter was not a request to bring charges, but it has a list of charges in the letter. Can someone clarify that just so I can make sure I'm on the same page? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll look for that.
So the bringing of charges, like the request in the letter is that the list of charges would be investigated and that the principal would be removed pending investigation. That's the request in the letter. Just like the letter is from 3 people who are LSC members. If people choose to misinterpret all of that, including like the general counsel of CPS, that is out of our hands. The media corrected the headline to make sure that it was clear that it was 3 LSC members, and nowhere in that letter did we say that we were sending this on behalf of the full LSC, because that's impossible for 3 LSC members to do that. So that's just how that is. So the discussion right now should be like, does the minutes here reflect the matters discussed at the meeting? And so that's basically what this time should be about, is like, are we in agreement that that's a sufficient summary of things? Rachel, do you want to go?
Yep, I wanted to say, can we add let me lower my hand. What you just said, Cassie, I actually don't think that all members of the council are going to agree on the interpretation, and the minutes maybe can leave that open. And instead we just need to like add last names of people for every line. I don't know, because like the intent, like maybe like even I don't know, like Cresswell said the intent. I know like Sarah has it in parentheses, but right now it's kind of reading to me as like a objective statement without Cassie's last name there. That should, I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not. But yeah.
You mean to add, I'm just trying to move things forward. You mean to add, instead of, you want me to put something in quotes? I mean, that's kind of what I do with the parentheses. Those statements are related to them. But if you want me to be more explicit, I can if you.
I would just like recommend, or this is my suggestion, and we don't have to agree, but to say like at the end of that highlighted phrase, so like Cresswell said the intent was not for the
I see.
CEO, because right now it kind of sounds
Yes. Okay, perfect, fine, I can add that.
Thanks, Rachel. William?
Okay, so if the question on the table is whether or not this satisfies sort of like my perspective on this issue and whether this represents what happened at the meeting, I would like to respectfully disagree. The letter says we are writing to report charges of irremediable conduct. Sorry, I'm having a very hard time speaking today. To say that that's not bringing charges is just contradictory to the letter. To say we're reporting charges, I mean, how is that? That's not saying investigate this. That's saying we're reporting charges. So I totally understand that we're going to have different perspectives on this, but I am struggling to reconcile the content of the letter and the discussion we had at this last meeting with the comments in the minutes, because they seem to be, and this is just my perspective, they seem to be like genuinely in conflict with one another and just contradictory.
So Deborah said in the chat here, the minutes should probably be just reflecting what was said at the meeting. Yeah, the minutes should reflect like basically matters discussed and decisions made. So we give very, very detailed minutes. In fact, minutes do not actually have to be this detailed. I think we should try to go for accuracy of what was said at the meeting, and the issue of whether this letter was represented as part of an LSC action or not is separate from what should actually be in this minutes, what was said last week. So that is, we need to finalize like what we think this should say. If we can't finalize it, we can vote in 2 weeks. Instead, we have 30 days to approve minutes, so we can table this and move on. Alexandra, and then Sarah.
I agree with you on that. And I think like as a response, we should also probably remove your intended purpose from the minutes as well, because the intended purpose as the letter was presented did not exactly translate. So I think it's another example of interpretation, even if it's like interpretation when writing. So I think we should probably remove both to limit confusion within the minutes.
So you're saying I should delete this Cresswell said that, the intent, that one?
Yeah.
And then, William, would you be happier if I said that, if I added to your statement something about the fact that the letter did say charges?
Yeah, that would be fine. I would just want to say real quick. So first of all, that's totally fine. Second of all, I would maybe agree with Cassie's statement. Perhaps if there's a lot of disagreement on this, we should table this to the next meeting, just because it seems like people have very different perspectives. I don't know.
I think the perspectives are going to be the same. So I'd prefer to just kind of clean this paragraph up and then approve it, and so that otherwise it can't be made public. Draft minutes cannot be made public. So even though they're public right here, but as we look at them. So if I delete that statement and then up here by you, use letter sent by 3 members wrongfully use the name of the CL of the LSC. And what if I said something like, and indicated charges?
Yep, that's fine. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Okay. Any other, as these are read to our children at bedtime stories, any other changes? Okay, then my minutes. Then I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 8th, 2022 LSC regular meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, right. Zen seconded, and a roll call vote. Andrade,
Yay.
Bowman. Oh, sorry, Clancy.
Abstain.
Okay, Cresswell,
Yes.
Hilbrands,
Yay.
Kerr,
Abstain.
Land,
Yes.
Mana Hoppenworth,
Yes.
Ma, yes, Martinsek,
Yes.
Menjivar,
Yes.
Powers.
No.
Okay, and Zen.
Yes.
Okay, those are approved. And then just as the new people see, the closed meeting minutes are just more of a record that we met and very broad summary of what we talked about. So, but we do need to document that. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the March 8th, 2022 LSC closed meeting.
One second, Sarah.
second.
Did you
Yeah.
have 8 yeses on that? Because
Let me check. Let's see. And 1,
there's 14 of us.
2,
Several missing.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I did. I had Andrade, Cresswell, Hilbrands, Land, Mana Hoppenworth, Ma, Martinsek, Menjivar, and Zen. That's 9. 9 yeas, 2 abstains, 1 no.
Thanks. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Did I get a
I'll
second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, Daniel seconded. Roll call, Andrade,
Yes.
Clancy,
Yes.
Cresswell,
Yes.
Hilbrands,
Yeah.
Kerr,
Yes.
Land,
Yes.
Mana Hoppenworth,
Yes.
Ma, yes, Martinsek,
Yes.
Menjivar,
Yes.
Powers,
Abstain.
Zen.
Yes.
Okay.
Rachel?
There was someone in the YouTube chat who said that they signed up to speak during public participation but did not receive the link. I don't know, Sarah, if it's
Yeah, let me go look at that. I know someone had put a wrong email address in, so let me see.
Yeah, I think we got a bounced email from Anne. Rachel, if it's an Anne.
it's not. It's Editha Nacionales.
Yeah, that probably is right. That email came back, so I think we need it sent again.
Yeah, that's the one that bounced. Let me
So while Sarah is adjusting that, we can start public participation with the people we have in here. I think, so is Marina, anyone on the call? Like, is Mary Johnson, maybe Marina? If not, I think we'll move to Susie Hett. Susie?
I decline to speak at this time.
Okay. And We also have Bernadetta. I don't think I see them on here. And we have Eric Marcus, who is also not on here.
Sorry, I just sent Eric Marcus the
Okay.
sign up because they signed up at 6:09. Or wait, I don't know. 5:09. Sorry, I just sent it. So
Okay. And then, so yes, we're hopefully Ann Nacionalis has gotten the link now. Okay. So if Susie, if you're not going to speak, you can, I think, just exit the meet. And then Mary Johnson, I don't know who that is. Oh, here's Eric. Eric, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I wanted to say I wanted to commend the students for really standing up last week and taking us. I know as students it can be difficult to sort of speak your voice to a bunch of adults. So I wanted to commend the students last week and even tonight as well. There is, as Mr. Clancy referred to, there is, reading that letter, I know it's been talked about, but there is, when a letter is signed by the LSC president as the LSC or LSC chair, however it was signed, and how the other parents signed it as LSC representative. I can't recall. I'm not looking at the letter right now. I'm in my car. There is no reasonable person could believe that that wasn't meant to be sent by the LSC. That'd be like the mayor of Chicago sending a letter and saying, this does not reflect the view of the city of Chicago. The governor sending a letter saying, the governor and the secretary of state and the attorney general sending a letter and saying that it doesn't reflect the opinion of the state. It's ridiculous to not think that somebody would think that that was from the LSC. So good for the students for standing up to that and making that clear. With regard to the minutes, I mean, I guess there shouldn't be any opinion of what should be represented. It should be said the letter was sent. It was signed by the chair as the LSC chair and the other members as whatever it said. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. If no one else has a hand up, I'll respond to that. This is a council and we have to have a quorum in order to take action as a council or do business as a council. And so 3 members alone cannot act. And so that's you know, legislative bodies, individual members can band together and write something, and that's not the same as the legislative body taking action. So it's really not the same as like an executive office. Thanks. Go ahead, William.
I just want to clarify something. I think Eric's point was about whether it can be interpreted as representing, not whether it's LSC business. So something can be interpreted to represent the view of the LSC without being official business of the LSC. And Eric can probably correct this better than I can. I think that was his point. I just want to make sure that for the minutes and the record, we're all on the same page for that. It wasn't intended to contradict you, Cassie. Sorry about that.
Oops, Roberto, do you have a comment here?
Oh yeah, I mean, William's on top of everything here. So I was just going to agree with William that it seemed like the public's perception of like how that letter was sent, that there was an impact there or representation that it was the entire LSC. So I just want to acknowledge that's what I'm hearing.
Thanks, Roberto. Rachel?
Hi, so I'm a community rep on this LSC, and I just wanted to say from my perspective as an LSC member who did not write or send this letter, it was not sent on my behalf, and I don't feel like it was sent by the LSC. And I would actually encourage parents to send letters to the school district when they feel so inclined. And regardless of if I agree or not, it's, parents need to send their opinions and their perspectives to CPS, because CPS doesn't often come to us, members of the school community to ask for our perspectives outside of surveys that are just, for questions or whatever. So I just wanted to say, like, I personally did not feel like this was done on my behalf, and was kind of disappointed that the media took it that way. And yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to put that in the conversation. Thank you.
Alexandra?
Hi, Rachel. I totally validate and understand your perspective, but I do think it's important to recognize the different effect that this could have in your daily life as a community representative versus a representative who was within the Jones building as this letter was being written. As I was in the building, obviously going to class as this letter was released, and it did have an impact on my life as a student, since people were coming up to me accusing me of writing something I didn't write, or accusing me of having a role in something I didn't have a role in. And I'm choosing to base my opinion on how I personally take the letter, less how I read it and more how it was impactful throughout the Jones community. And I think when you think of it as an issue of intent versus impact, it's very clear that the intended writing behind this letter is different than the way it impacted the Jones community.
Oops. Thanks, Alexandra. Dr. Pars, do you have a final comment on that?
Just that from my perspective, I think any reasonable person seeing a document signed by the officers of an organization would clearly interpret that as being coming from that organization, regardless of what the actual rules or expectations are.
Thanks. Okay, I don't think, Mary Johnson, are you here for public participation? Are you someone who signed up and your name just doesn't match with anything on our list? If not, I think we don't have anyone else here for public participation. So
Yeah, Aditha, she's not in the chat anymore. So if she comes in later, perhaps we can let her.
yeah, we could add her at the end, at the before adjourning. Okay. And
Mary Johnson has raised her hand.
yeah, go ahead, Mary. Yeah, Mary, if you are here for public participation, if you could exit and come back in, maybe you're having connecting difficulties, and we can add you in after another meeting or at another item. Okay, so we can now, I think, move on. Do we have approval, Sarah?
Sorry. No, we actually don't. The only thing I wanted to update, so we don't have any items over 2,500 or budget. Or the only thing I was going to update was the golf. We don't need to approve it, but I just wanted to let everyone know that Mr. Gilmer reached out about a fundraiser they're doing, but it's with Peyton. So we talked with Mr. Burney, and it's not something we have to approve, but the proper paperwork will be turned in to Mr. Burney at the end of the fundraiser. And Mr. Gilmer, said that there has been concerns about equity in sports, and fundraising can play a role in that. And he wanted to make sure as a team consider this. And so as such, they reached out to other golf coaches within CPS, boys and girls, to see if other teams would be interested in participating in their event, with each team receiving the profits from the participants they sign up. So I just wanted to give everyone an update on that fundraiser, which we don't have to approve, but that is happening.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so item 6 is the parent representative vacancy. And we have 2 parents here to speak. And so we can hear from them and then we can go into our closed session to discuss them. And so that is Aaron Taylor and Lainey Canavero. Lainey and Aaron.
Yeah, I'd like Sarah to address the point that we had going back and forth, that the submission was not actually done in time.
Yeah. So, and again, I apologize, my camera isn't working today, but so per our February minutes, we said that we'd post the open position. I think Troy was going to do that on the website, and then we did it on social media. We got 2 candidates by I think it was the March 3rd deadline. And then we got another candidate on March 8th. And I had reached out to that candidate and said, we'd have to discuss as a council to see if we'd accept that, because it was after the deadline. And additionally, we hadn't sent an email advertising the position. So I felt like, do we need to send out that email to advertise the position? As a council right here tonight, do we decide that we will accept that late submission or not? So that's something that we should discuss here. One is, are we going to accept the late submission? Then we have these 2 candidates that are here to speak tonight, or do we not want to accept that candidate? Or do we want to not do this at all tonight and repost for the whole community?
Deborah?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the second candidate, because it makes no sense to fight over 2 candidates. There are no specific rules about the closing date of an election. It wasn't publicized as we had anticipated. And I wouldn't see any problem with having 2 candidates. I think it's for everyone's benefit that we hear from more than one person. So I would make a motion that we accept the second candidate.
I'll second.
William, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah. So I have a slight issue with that, given that the LSC received an email from a junior trying to run for the LSC after the deadline, responding with applications for LSC were due on March 9th. You can read more here. So it seems slightly unfair to deny a student. Oh, I'm sorry. That was for the election, not.
Yeah, that's for the election. And so I did put a little correction in the chat there. I'll just say it out loud. Like, filling a vacancy and the elections are like very different procedural things, and CPS runs the elections. The LSC itself fills its vacancies. So yeah, there's not really a whole lot of specific information about how much you have to advertise a vacancy. So, but yes, so that student is pretty much out of luck. So you can't file your papers to run as a candidate late. Troy?
I would vote not to accept the late submission, mainly because the deadline was the 3rd. And if we're going to accept this candidate, then I would propose that we just scrap this whole thing and re-advertise it. I don't think that's fair to accept a late submission like this, especially when we had a special meeting and it would have been decided that night on the 8th. And would we have accepted it then? I don't think we would have.
Roberto?
Yeah, so I guess along the lines as Troy, I think I would accept this. I would accept having the second candidate for a couple of reasons. One, I think folks have talked about just increasing our participation, and there's only 2 candidates that are as of right now, 2 candidates who are here, who are willing. My understanding is if you're here, you're willing and want to participate and be involved in the school community and the decisions that we make as an LSC. Right. And if we don't, then I would say, let's repost this, because my understanding, Sarah, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the vacancy was not posted on the website. So I would say, let's post it. If we're not going to accept any of the candidates right now, let's post it on the website. and promote it, and then we revisit this situation in April at our regular LSC meeting. And I do want to point out, I think if I remember correctly, a couple months ago or 2 or 3 months ago, when we were trying to fill the parent vacancy, we did get a late submission that evening, and Dr. Powers read the statement from that individual during the closed session. So we considered it. So I think it's fair to consider the second applicant's statement and submission.
Thanks, Roberto. Okay, so I think we can put this to a vote. And if we
So I know I don't really have a voice here, but it is unfair to me as a candidate that you allowed somebody to come in after the hours were done, and you should reopen this position and allow other people to do it.
Not talk over the chair, lady. I did not recognize you. That you're not part of the debate on this motion. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry.
You are acting unfairly.
The motion was to accept the second candidate. We're going to hold a vote on that now. We're closing debate on that, and we'll hold a vote on it. If this motion fails, then we can consider another motion of tabling the whole thing. So if you are in favor of tabling the whole thing, you should probably vote no on this so that you can vote on a motion that you would prefer after this, just to be clear for everyone, okay?
Okay, so just to reiterate, Ms. Land made a motion to accept the second candidate. I seconded, and I'm just going to do a vote. Andrade.
Yes.
Clancy.
No.
Clancy's a no. Hilbrands.
No.
Kurt?
Abstain.
Abstain. Land?
Yes, but you skipped Cresswell.
Sorry. Cresswell?
No.
Sorry. Okay, Land.
Yes.
Mana Hoppenworth?
Yes.
Ma, yes. Martinsek?
No.
No. Okay. Menjivar?
We're voting to accept the second candidate.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm going to vote yes.
Okay. Powers?
No.
Is no. And Zen?
Yes.
Okay, hold on. I got to do some math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have only 6 yeses, so it does not pass. Okay.
Alexandra?
Sorry, I was wondering if we don't approve, well, I guess we didn't, but if we don't approve the second nominee to be able to run, then does the person who filled in their forms on time, do they win automatically?
No, that's not how it works.
Okay.
We have to vote to fill the seat. So I think, go ahead, Roberto.
I make a motion to scrap this and open up the vacancy, the parent vacancy for April.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? I'm going to use scrap.
William?
Just a point of clarification. When is the next election and when do people take their seats? My only concern being that if we fill the seat in April, and people take this, I believe the election is in April. If we fill the seat in April and the election takes place in April, does that matter? So I would just like that clarification.
Yeah. Terms end. Everyone's term will end on June 30th. So anyone appointed to fill the seat, their term will end on June 30th. The elections take place in April at parent pickup, report card pickup day. But then there's a couple months there where you aren't on the LSC yet. Rachel?
I did want to say this has been confusing, both for the lack of the communication and then also just about the issue of, do we still need to vote even if there's just one candidate? We voted on every candidate that's ever applied. No matter if it's just one person or several, you always have to have discussion about the candidate and then vote them on as a council. So I just wanted to clarify that for anyone who's confused. Like, we always vote no matter how many candidates there are.
That's not really like an obligatory part of the process. Like if someone wants to make a motion now to vote or to go into closed session, we can entertain that. Right now, we're entertaining the motion to basically table the appointing altogether until our next meeting. Dr. Powers?
Yes, I would concur with Rachel that we have a viable candidate, a valid candidate, I should say. And I think we have an obligation to vote on that up or down. We would do it, obviously, to go into closed session for discussion before we do so.
Thanks, Dr. Powers. And Roberto?
And so I just a point of clarification, was this vacancy posted on the school's website?
I think it was posted on the LSC page briefly, like on the LSC page itself. So not on the main news page. At some point I did see it, I think on like the list of members saying that there's a vacancy.
Yeah, but
Troy,
I'm
can you-
asking if it was,
can you
if it was
clarify?
posted on the
Yeah.
Jones College Prep's website, official website, because that's how we've done it in the past. And I think it's brought up that it wasn't. And if it wasn't, then we scrapped this. We posted on the website, and Dr. Powers and the LSC pushes out that information, and then we vote on this again in April.
Thanks, Roberto. Troy, can you answer? Do you have any clarification of that in addition to that?
Yeah, it was posted on the LSC page, and I believe there was Dr. Powers mentioned it in one of his Eagle Nest News.
Yeah, but that doesn't answer my question whether it was posted on the school's official website.
I think no. I think it wasn't. Like, I think we've come to that conclusion that it wasn't posted.
Well, you mean the main page? No.
Thanks. Rachel?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I wasn't advocating for or against having a vote tonight. I think we should probably, it's my opinion that we should vote on that because it seems like there's people all over the board. My main point was that I'm pretty sure as a council we have to vote on new members. There's no just automatic new membership if there's just one candidate.
Yes, that's correct. William?
I would sort of agree with what Rachel said. I think we should vote on this tonight if we have a valid candidate, especially since before the previous vote failed, we were prepared to consider both candidates tonight. So if we're prepared to consider candidates tonight, period, that shouldn't change after the result of the earlier vote, was my understanding. Is my perspective. Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks, William. And Sarah?
I was just going to say that this deadline of March 3rd, I don't know if it was posted on the LSC page or not. So that's my only concern, is that the deadline, and I don't know if Troy can clarify that for the minutes.
I'm sorry, you're asking if the deadline was posted on the website?
Yeah, I think you said it was listed like on the LSC page that there was a vacancy, but I don't know if there was a deadline or anything associated with when that had to be, or even in Dr. Power's email. I know he did discuss it, but I don't know if we said like, get your applications in by X date, that kind of thing.
I don't know off the top of my head. On the page that listed under members, no, there's not a date listed.
Okay, so I think we can close debate on this. I think the motion is essentially postpone the filling of the vacancy till a future meeting.
And Deborah seconded. So I'll put this to a vote. Andrade?
Wait, so sorry, can I?
Let me restate the motion. The motion is to table this vote until our April meeting where we can repost the vacancy. to the whole school community?
Yes.
Okay. Clancy?
No.
Okay, no.
Sarah,
Cresswell.
Violet has joined if you want to.
Oh, thank you. Let me put that time in 6:46. Can we take this vote? I don't think we can have discussion in the middle of our vote. So let me finish this vote and then Cresswell.
Yes.
Okay, Hillbrands.
No.
Kerr.
No.
Land.
Yes.
Not Hoppenworth.
Yes, but just to be clear that we are voting until the April meeting and we're reposting this vacancy with deadlines.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so she is a yes. Ma is a yes. Martinsek.
Yes.
Ranjavar.
Yes.
Powers?
No.
Ben.
Yes.
All right, let me do some math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 yeses. So that passes.
Okay, so that item is tabled till our next meeting. Rachel?
Yeah, that was actually my question. Is like, does that count as like an amendment of the agenda if we make a motion? No. Okay, it's just okay. Yeah.
So at a special meeting, you can always drop stuff off the agenda. You just can't add stuff to it. So that's basically how the OMA works. Let me go to Alexandra first.
Is there a way that we could potentially let the current candidates still speak now, just so that we don't have to like take up more of their time with these meetings?
Yeah, I think that would be great if Aaron and Lainey are prepared to speak. That would be great to hear from them tonight. And Troy?
I guess I'm confused why we would let the candidates speak now if we're going to be reopening it to everyone and potentially adding more candidates.
If they want to give their statements tonight and not come back for the original thing or something, that's fine. Like, I understand that people, you know, they're here. If they want to give their essentially like a 2-minute explanation of them, I think
Can I
that's fine.
clarify what I meant also, just like quickly? Sorry. Like, I was thinking maybe they could speak today. We could have that in the minutes, have written down what they say, their statements, right? And then as the rest of the candidates, whoever fills in later comes, they speak, and then we look over all of the statements again as we vote, just so that we don't, like, you know, take up more time.
I'm happy to do that if Lainey and Aaron are happy to speak. If you guys would both prefer to come back when we do this again, that is fine as well. So I'll just leave it up to you guys. And thanks.
From my perspective, I'm fine to come back. That's no skin off my back. But also happy to speak tonight if that's what people prefer. Either way, it's good by me.
Lainey, do you have a preference?
I'd prefer to actually come back, and Aaron, I do want to say I have no issue, and you know that you applied. I just have an issue with them not following through on the process and following stated deadlines, which I find to be bothersome, distasteful. So I'm happy to come back and do this with you again at a later time.
I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, and we will see you at a later meeting. Okay, I think we can move on to item 7. Do you have a final comment on that one, Dr. Powers? You have your hand up.
No.
Sarah?
I need a date for when the applications are due so that Troy and myself I'll do social media and he'll do the website.
I think so our next meeting is April
12th. April 12th.
So like the 5th.
No, the next meeting is the 19th.
Oh.
I think that's during spring break though, right?
12th is during spring break.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so that's the 12th. Then like to have them do the 12th or like the Friday before spring break or something.
I think the Friday before spring break would make more sense.
okay, so for the record, April 8th.
That seems reasonable to me.
I don't think we have a meeting next week, Daniel. Yeah, unless there's committee meetings.
Oh yeah, that's my bad. I'm just confused. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so number 7, that is an item I think William brought. And do you want to go ahead and introduce it, William?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I just wanted to talk, especially after our last meeting, I wanted to have a discussion with the LSC about the way in which student voice is included and students are included in this LSC on many levels. I think primarily why I want to bring this up is I'm just going to give like a brief introduction. So I'm going to give a brief introduction, and then I'd like to turn this back to Cassie and see how Cassie wants to proceed. At the last meeting, obviously, we had a lot of parent community members who spoke and very few student members. And since then, I and the other LSC representatives have been speaking to students and trying to gather their opinions, as well as sort of their feelings on the LSC. And one of the things that continually comes up in many ways is that students do not feel heard on issues and do not feel like they're being adequately listened to in this council, not just because of the personal opinions of the student representatives, but they feel like they are not welcome to speak in this space. I spoke to several students who said that they don't feel comfortable coming before the LSC and speaking because they don't feel like they will be, I'm trying to think of the correct phrasing of this. They don't feel like they will be necessarily taken seriously, or that their opinions are going to be valued or considered with the same weight as other community members. And so I think we need to have a discussion about this and the way in which this LSC is creating an environment for students, because it is unacceptable to me that the other students in our community do not feel like they can come before this committee and speak their mind. That is a huge problem. So yeah, Cassie, I would like to know how you would like to proceed with this, if you just want to hear some debate on it or what your perspective is.
Alexandra has her hand up, and maybe Daniel will have something to add too, since it is a student item.
Just going off of what Will said, and then I'm looking at the notes that we took when we met with people now. Another pretty big theme that I remember hearing and see written down is that some students, specifically of affinity groups at Jones, feel kind of used by the LSC or feel treated like pawns. I guess that's, I don't know, my words to describe it, which I think is definitely, I assume, isn't the intention, but that's a very concerning sentiment to be hearing from large groups within the student body.
Thanks, Alexandra. Daniel, do you have anything to add?
Yes, I'll just add that I know it's a two-way battle as well. It's also on the students' behalf to want to come up here and speak, and I know a lot of students are not, that in tune with the LSC, which I think is a whole other debate about advertising. But I think that there are a sizable amount of students interested, but like Will said, they feel that their voice won't be put on the same level as other people. Is that the culture around here that is making them feel that way, or I don't know exactly what the cause is, but I would like to hear what everyone else has to say.
Rachel?
My first question, I guess, if students want to participate more? Is there a way that we can restructure the public comment portion of the meetings to have students speak first? I would also say that the public comment portion, and I think this has been felt by parents and students and other community members alike, is not a conversation per se, and it's in that way it's and it's not designed to be for any public body. I don't think that's exclusive to this council. The public comment portion is like awkward and it's very inhuman in my opinion, because people sign up to speak, they go in an order, and then they have 3 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever it may be, and we cut them off. And that cutoff is so that we can hear as many voices as possible. But that doesn't mean that we can try to bend it as much as we can to better serve the students. So yeah, I guess I'm moving into solutions. Maybe I shouldn't do that, and we should just talk about that. It's not, the culture is not there yet for students to come. But I did want to just mention that the public comment is like pretty terrible in terms of being like a humanistic interaction.
Roberto?
Yeah, so I just want to thank, well, you can hear me, right? Okay. I just want to thank William, Alexandra, and Daniel for really surfacing this and raising students' voices. I just want to make clear, like I'm trying to, I think I have tried to champion students who want to bring issues to the LSC. And as part of the equity committee, we take on a variety of things to help students to make sure that their voices are, that we are listening to them, and that we are being proactive. And I think that with Denaya and Daniel, I have attempted to lean on them whenever I've included certain equity stuff. I asked them, hey, you know, what more can we do? What are students saying? And I think I've tried now with William and Alexandra joining this, included you on some of the emails, and even at the LSC meeting when we were talking about the textbook, and just trying to ask you all to gauge the students and what are their thoughts. So those are some ways I've tried to make sure that I'm being respectful of the three of you and your leadership, and trying to be mindful on how you all can bring student voices to this LSC. So my question is, like, is what I'm doing helpful, harmful, and what else can we be doing, or that I can be doing, to make sure that I'm being respectful to the students, and what else this LSC can do to make sure that we are a welcoming space for every student to surface their concerns.
William?
Yeah, so Roberto, I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate that you have done your best to include us on emails and communications like that, and that's something that I appreciate, and that is something we can try and bring to the rest of the students, is including them in these discussions. We can talk about how that happens later. One of the issues that I did want to sort of bring up before we move into discussion, though, is the way in which student voices are, I want to say, the way student voices are treated on the LSC. Students, as Alex pointed out, many students feel that, this is going to sound really mean, but I'm going to say it. Many students feel that their voices are used as props on this council. And it's very convenient to pick up a student voice when it leans sort of in your favor, and set it down when it no longer does. And that is a huge problem. And I have my own feelings on that matter. But one of the things we really heard from students is that they don't feel like when they do speak before this council, like this council receives their responses with the best intent. And that is something that we need to think about in terms of solutions, not just like how can we, you know, include people on emails more, but like, how is the way that the other members of this committee behave affecting the way in which students feel like their opinions are valued? Because the students are just as important part of this community as everyone else. And it's unacceptable that they feel like their opinions are used as tools rather than valued.
Alexandra?
Also to totally agree with Will, and then as a response to what you said, Roberto, I think it's a lot less about what you do individually and about the way the council holds themselves as a whole and the foot that we as a group put forward, which I do think a lot of that, I will be honest, probably does ride on you, Cassie, as you are the chair, meaning you are kind of the like representative in a way of the council. Like you are the, as head of the council, you represent the foot that is being put forward of the rest of us. So I think the way we, especially you, start to interact, or the way we interact with the Jones community, will shift the views that students have of the LSC.
Daniel?
I just want to say, first of all, Roberto, I think you're doing a great job at reaching out to students. On your committee, the equity committee, I've seen a lot of student engagement, like with the dress code and other tasks your committee has taken up. So I think I applaud you on going forward and reaching out to students. But I agree, I think this is also more of like a whole council level thing. And I know we can't really do anything like retroactively and go back and, have students say things a different way and reach out to more students. But I think just moving forward, I like the idea of Rachel proposed earlier of like restructuring the, public participation into maybe like sections of like student, teacher, parents, and having students go first before like anything they say can be like taken out of context and stuff like that. And also just moving forward, be aware of how students are feeling right now. I think the first way to fix a problem is acknowledgement. And so like just have this be an acknowledgement of how students are feeling and keep that moving forward. I think that's the best way.
Thanks, Daniel. So probably if we don't have any more hands for like the discussion part, I think we can see if people have suggestions on steps to take. Rachel?
I'm gonna let Ellen go first, Ms. Martin.
Thanks. I just wanted to say I really appreciate that our student representatives are not only acting as representatives in this space, but also reaching out to their constituents. I think that's something that's really important. I know as a teacher representative, that's something that like PPLC is empowered to survey staff. And so we're able to get a breadth of voice on a really regular basis, which is awesome. It's a little bit more challenging as a student rep. So I'm not sure like what ways we can make that easier for you. Like emailing all of the students. That's a lot of people, but just something to like consider if that's something that we could continue to discuss. I think that would be awesome to help, again, support you in this space, but also reach out to additional students. That's just one side of this. There's many sides that have been brought up, but I just wanted to bring up that one in particular.
Thanks, Ellen. Rachel?
Yeah, I wanted to share anecdotally just an experience that we had on the Health and Safety Committee last year, which was that we tried to have a student safety forum in the spring, and just the restraints on the council members, like legal restraints, it made it really difficult to invite students to come. And I actually think bringing it up to the general LSC is like, if you bring up an issue as an agenda item, like William did, then we're actually discussing a topic that students suggest, as opposed to students, in addition to students giving public comment, right? It's like if there's an agenda item, and so maybe this is just, I'm moving into suggestion mode, but one suggestion is like encouraging not just participation in the meeting, but like actually proposing agenda items to the student reps to add, so that we have substantive discussion and it's not just like giving public comment and then, okay, we move on.
Roberto?
Yeah, Rachel, I really appreciate that, and I think that what resonated with me is making sure that when we are putting together the agenda, that we're getting what the students want on the agenda. What are some of their concerns, or what are some things that they want to highlight on the agenda, and maybe perhaps our 3 student representatives, and moving forward, that's something that, you know, they can solicit and see what's important now and what's important for our students. Because the way I've attempted to advocate for the students or amplify the voices, you hear of an issue, of a problem that's surfacing, and then I reach out to Cassie and say, I would like this on the agenda. But that's me, because that's me interpreting or receiving that message and what I think might be important to raise. So I like this idea of like trying to solicit students and what they would like to see at these LSC meetings on the agenda.
William?
I want to say I really appreciate that a lot of other members are putting forward solutions of how we can like physically include students more. I think that's a great first start. One of the things I do want to bring up when we're considering this is something that we mentioned earlier and sort of hasn't been addressed is I would like members of this committee to consider how the environment that the LSC is. So Daniel, Alex, and I are 3 people. We can't represent all 2,000 Jones students perfectly, and that's to be expected. That's an issue in any representative democracy. But you know, one of the ways that we can sort of fix that is by making it easier for students to present their own issues. And that again is great. You know, we want students to be able to come before the LSC, but is the environment of the LSC a safe environment for students? Is it an environment they feel welcomed in and supported in? And I can tell you that what we have heard from students is the answer to that question is no. And so that is something that we need to consider. You know, like we can talk about logistical measures forever, and that is great, but a logistical measure will not make students feel safe in this committee. And it will not make them feel necessarily more heard. I have spoken with students who say that they feel like they, of course, you know, everyone gets anxious with public speaking, but they feel like not only anxious because they have to speak before this committee, but anxious because they are afraid in which the other members of this committee will react to them publicly. You know, how are we making sure as a committee that the other students who want to participate are not, sorry, I'm not finding the word for it. How do we make sure that other people feel like this is a place where they can come? Because right now, I don't think they do.
Thanks, William. Lenny?
Thanks, William and Alexandra and Daniel. You know, you are bringing up such a good point, William, and as a survivor of sexual assault, I feel that I've heard so many stories of where victims are taking upon themselves to come to us to tell their stories, and that is very, you know, disturbing for me. And I imagine that is also difficult for somebody who's undocumented to come onto this call and to tell their story, to actually stand up and say that they need help and also they're undocumented. I'm thinking of those who are not the majority, but on the margins. And that's who I center when I'm on these calls. Students who, you know, have special needs and they are not receiving those services that they need. I can imagine that it's hard for them to come to these calls. So thank you for bringing this up. I think it's very important to create spaces. That's why I'm very appreciative of the work that Rachel has done to lay the groundwork for the Health and Safety Committee, and for us to take that on, and also for Roberto and Deborah to lay the groundwork for the Equity Committee. And I'm hoping that those council people who come after us will continue on with that work, and also create spaces where students feel safe to have you know, the time in those committees to work on projects actually together and then to bring it to the LSC. I think that there needs to be an onboarding ramp that speaks to our values as a school and the culture that we want to create together. I don't think that this body is perfect. I don't think that this environment really lends itself to, look, I can't even turn my camera on for fear that I would be cut off. This is not a great space to be heard in general. So I thank everybody for, and also the people who want to, you know, come on to this LSC as new members. I thank everybody for trying in COVID times. So thank you, William, for bringing this up. I believe that we must do better.
Alexandra?
I also do want to make sure we are remembering to like consider the students who normally would feel comfortable sharing their stories but have an issue coming here and doing it because of the way we each individually hold ourselves. And I think the only thing we can do to respect and voice that is hold ourselves accountable. Like each one of us look inward and make sure that we are all respectful with facial expressions or respectful with the words we choose to use, and we make sure not to use harmful language or harmful rhetoric. And I guess to you, Roberto, because I think you have come, and I do appreciate how much you want to look inward and want to reflect. I think it's important to make sure to always listen with the intent of digesting and listening as opposed to listening with the intent to respond, I think is a very big thing that I've seen. An example I can think of that with like you specifically, Roberto, that I've experienced recently that did cause a little bit of harm on my end is when we as student reps were voicing our concerns with things being done on our behalf a couple meetings ago, which you then responded and sent an email where you said something along the lines of, thank you for voicing this concern. I reach out to X, Y, and Z to talk about it, which is kind of another example to me of reaching out and going the extra mile and but talking to talk and not listen, which I think it's important for all of us to make sure that we are listening with the intent to inspire change, not through our words, but through our amplification of other people.
Rachel?
I'm gonna be the contrarian here. I moved to Chicago from Texas in part because I wanted to participate on local school councils. I think that they fail more often than they succeed. And I don't think that there are safe spaces for students, period. I think that the power imbalance is there. And so I do want to just say that because, you know, this is a test of democracy at the super, super local level. And I think it like I said, I think it fails a lot. And I think Cassie mentioned this last time when we were on a meeting that this is not the space for restorative justice. It just the body does not lend itself to it, and we had the norms brought in last year by Ms. Martinsek and Ms. Bowman, and we often fail to employ them. I think just because it's really difficult to do that in this
Okay.
Everything good?
Yeah. It was plugged in, but then I guess the battery died, and even though it was plugged in, it was not in a proper position. So we are all back, and the stream is back, and yeah. Sorry.
Okay. I think we can resume. Do you want to do roll call quick, Sarah?
Sure. 7:20. So took a little break. Friday,
Present.
Serna Prado. Did you have to go? Shoot.
Yeah, looks like it.
Clancy,
Present.
Cresswell,
Here.
Brands,
Here.
Burr,
Here.
Land,
Here.
Matt Hoppenworth,
Here.
Here, Martinsek,
Here.
Menjivar,
Here.
Powers,
Here.
Ben.
Here.
Okay, we're here. Sorry about that.
No worries. I think William and Sarah had their hands up.
Yeah, Sarah, do you want to go first since you haven't spoken yet?
I just wanted to echo what Rachel said about LSC's not being the best place for voice. And I don't want it to be student voice. One of my first experiences was with a very strong chair, and I was just a community member, like a parent, and I learned very quickly that about the rules of, you don't talk until you're called upon, and this is when we were in person. I found that really off-putting, and so I think the elephant in the room that no one is really discussing is the way that we cut people off and things like that. And I do think that when you have a body like this, unfortunately, you do have to wait till you're called on. Now, maybe that's something we need to communicate better with everyone. As part of our norms, it's like, this is how an LLC works. I think a lot of people don't go to the Board of Ed meetings and see how those are run, or haven't been as many meetings where Robert's Rules of Orders are strictly followed. And every council isn't necessarily strict. Some are way more strict than others, and it really depends on your chair. But I think that tone is kind of what we're kind of tiptoeing around. Cassie's not warm and fuzzy. I don't think she'd ever admit to she was. I wish you could see me smiling right now. And that's not who she is. And if we want her to be more like that, then I'm not sure how it's going to work. I think that the real voice is in the committee meetings. And that's it for my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Do we have other comments here? William?
Yeah, I want to rephrase what I said earlier because I don't think I articulated my point very well, and I'm thankful for the comments of the other members. But I'm going to be really blunt about this because I don't have a better way to articulate myself. Students do not feel respected by the other members of this committee. They do not feel like they are taken seriously. They do not feel welcome. Students articulate this to the student members of the committee because they don't feel comfortable approaching the other members of this committee. Personally, this is going to be, something that hurts for a lot of people to say, and I know we're going to practice like a oops, ouch norms. I do not feel like the other members of this committee take me as a student seriously. I'm sorry. I do not think the members of this committee value my opinion as a student. I think that it is, there are times when I am listened to and what I say is considered by the other members, but it is generally because it aligns with what they are going to say. I mean, the way that this council treats its students is not okay. I'm trying to be really chill about this, but this is something that I feel very strongly about and which impacts me very deeply. I mean, the student members of this committee spent the weekend cleaning up like this mess after this letter was released, and we weren't notified about this. We didn't find out. There's blame on all sides in this, but students were the last people told about this. We were the last people told about this by all members involved, and that is unacceptable. I am sorry that, I appreciate all the things that everyone has done to include students so far, but the elephant in the room is not the tone that we take when cutting people off. It is whether or not we are listening to students or whether or not we are using their voices as props. I do not feel like this committee is welcoming to students. It takes a lot of effort for me to come to these meetings because it does not feel like what I say at these meetings makes a difference. It does not feel like people care what I say. And I think that other student reps might feel the same. I can't speak for them. But, I don't, and I hear a lot of people talking about what they've done before and what they're going to do in the, how they have tried to help students in the past. What I want to know is, what are you going to do as a person and a member on this committee, as an adult who is trying to invite students into this space? What are you doing to make students feel comfortable personally? How are you adjusting your behavior to treat students fairly? How are you treating students as developed members of this community, or are you treating them as, children? Because, just because we are minors, we are under the age of 18, does not mean that we do not have well-formed opinions about how this committee should be run. I'm so sorry that I got a little impassioned in this, but this is how I feel and this is how students feel. And this is an issue which needs to be addressed, not by CCing people on emails, but by reevaluating how the members of this committee treat one another and public participants.
Deborah?
Thank you for that, William. It has, as I've been listening to you expressing your frustration and your anger and your concerns, if I take a step back from the specific instances that we're using as examples of why we have these issues, I think you've hit on something really fundamental here. And I think that now that we have 3 student representatives instead of 1, and the dynamic of, because the nature of the group changes when we add new members, there's a fundamental issue about how do we successfully onboard new members when the school year is more than half over already. And how do we get the relationship piece that is required to be really effective as fellow council members? How do we bring that up to speed quickly enough that you feel welcome and respected? We know each other well enough that we understand where somebody's coming from when they say this or that or the other. And I think there's a real difference in how we may need to onboard student reps compared to onboarding an adult. For example, when Lenny joined the council last year, I could pick up the phone and call her, and we talked on the phone for an hour and a half, and I'm sure other council members talked to her as well. And so it was a different kind of relationship building that happened before she attended her first meeting. And I don't know how to find you. I'm a little concerned that as a student, I have been told it's inappropriate to reach out to you to try and chat. I would love to get to know you guys better, because I think because of the nature of the kind of work that this council does, having some kind of mutual understanding and relationship building becomes kind of the grease that helps the process go easier. And we haven't done a good job of getting you guys onboarded in terms of, the real depth of what's been going on here. There's a lot of stuff that happened before you got here that I don't know what you heard or what you didn't hear. And so I think, separate from the instances that you've mentioned, we have this overarching or umbrella issue of how do we onboard people into the school year, and in particular, how do we onboard student representatives? Because we had one person from the Office of Local School Council Relations say, I can't email you. And then we had another person from the Office of Local School Council Relations saying, but of course he's a council member, you can email him. But in order to develop some kind of relationship, sitting here looking at a 2-inch by 3-inch tile video picture is not the same as really developing a relationship. And I think we as councils and other councils who have also added student representatives, somehow we need to find a way to do a better job of onboarding people so that we develop shared expectations of how this is going to work, and we kind of know each other better. And I knew Daniel because of the equity committee before I was ever an LSC member, because he was on the equity committee last year. So there was a bit of a relationship there. And I think that that's really a thing that, because of these examples you've pointed out, it's really like the light bulb has gone off and says, we have a fundamental issue of how are we going to do all these things? Because without the relationship, it makes the work much more, it feels more combative. It's not meant to be combative. We're not trying to make people feel unwelcome, but somehow we need to figure out, how do we work on building relationships? I can go out to coffee with Cassie and Lenny, and we can have, you know, a girls' night out, or we can go to the play at the school, or we can do things together. But as a 59-year-old mom, I can't invite you to come out with me. So we just got to figure out a better way of onboarding students, because this is a new issue for this council. We haven't had it like this before. And I think the relationship building piece of it is really important. And I would love for us to figure out so that we can lay the template for the people who come after us, because there will be 3 students on the LSC, and we need to find a way that students and parents or community members can develop relationships so that we can be effective council members together without the rub.
Thanks, Deborah. And Alexandra, can you do sort of a final comment on this? That would be great.
Yeah, quickly. I do agree with a lot of what you just said, Deborah. However, I also feel like one should be able to treat people with basic fundamental empathy and understanding without knowing them super well, or without having that relationship, especially people who are representing a wider like group of people than just themselves. I feel like you should be able to act with empathy and be able to treat people in a human and kind way without knowing them super well, or else how do you, as parents, and this is a question for you, expect to be able to properly represent the parents of the Jones community, let alone build these relationships and rapport with students?
Thanks, Alexandra. So I think in terms of action steps, you know, really there is only 3.5 months left for this council. So we should think about like what is realistic going forward timing wise. I think we actually brought up last year the idea of doing some trainings as a council all together on something like adultism. Chicago Freedom School has, which is right across the street from Jones, has an adultism training that we could do, which I think would be very generally valuable for people, and also valuable in the context of the council. And I think people should, you know, the new students need to know this, and I think all of the adults on the council should also know this, that they're, you know, I think kind of what Sarah was saying, like, I'm not a warm and fuzzy person necessarily, and we're doing serious business. And so if anything, I am trying to treat the students as I treat all the other representatives on the council, and I don't share all information with everyone. You know, there's the information that is general to the whole council, and you know, we don't all have the same relationships with each council member that we have with every single person on the council, and that's how it is. You know, some people you have you know, just the professional counsel relationship with, and some others, you know, you have an outside connection to. So that is just, I think that is how it works. And, you know, that's sort of the nature of a body like this. Some people are purely your colleagues on the council, and some, you know, you have other essentially connections with in what you're working on, and you have agreements with, and you share values with. And so that's just how it works in the world of this sort of work. William?
I get that we're trying to wrap this up, but I think there is a lot more to be said on this issue. So if people aren't prepared to continue discussing this tonight, which it seems like they're not, I would request this be on the agenda for our April meeting, or for our next meeting. Just because I think there is a lot more discussion that needs to happen on this, and I would like to continue moving forward, but I'd recognize that people are not prepared to do that tonight.
I think this is not really about LSC business, and I think we should consider having this as essentially like a internal council development opportunity. And so I think that is actually that is permitted as a public body, and I think it's something we should consider. And I think we can figure that out offline as well. Roberto?
Yeah, so I think it's important, and I proposed this as soon as I took my seat a couple years ago, like having some sort of professional development with the LSC to be able to facilitate a productive and collaborative approach. There was obviously some tension between some members who had that were elected to take their seats and the administrative leadership. I continuously propose, listen, we need to work on our communication skills. We need to work on our collaborative skills. And there was just a lot of pushback for doing something like that. And so I, again, would strongly encourage this LSC for the remaining time that we have together to seek out some professional development, to work on our communication skills, to work on our collaborative skills moving forward.
So I think we can wrap this up tonight and take this offline. William and Lenny, send me your thoughts on planning for this. And Editha, Anne, do you want to speak?
Yes.
So 1 second. So let's do that last public participation, and then we will do item number 8 and 9. So go ahead, Ms. Nacionales.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. You know, I represent a typical Jones College prep parent, okay? And my perception of the LSC, bottom line is their ultimate goal is for doing what is best for the students. I don't know how you're gonna do it, but I would think that all of you at the LSC, your agenda is first and foremost what is best for the students. And so I have been at Jones Prep since 2010. My first child, I have 3 graduates of Jones Prep, and I have 1 that's a junior right now. So since 2010, we have been a resident at Jones Prep. Okay? And so we have seen how Dr. Powers have faced all the challenges, especially with the new building. You know, it's not easy to be CEO, administrator, and an excellent educator at Jones Prep. That's why I was so surprised when I found out about the push or the move for the LSC to kick him out. I mean, that's the bottom line. When you read the papers, that's what's in the papers. It seems like all of you wants him out. And then I was very much surprised with the bad faith of finding out that Dr. Powers didn't even know about the complaint until a member of the media told him about it. Don't you think that's really bad faith? And so I asked around, and I found out that some of the people at the LSC were even parents of freshman students. So with the COVID going on, with no students in the school, with no parents there, how were you able to assess or make an accurate assessment on the performance of Dr. Powers when you're just new at Jones? You know, we have seen the mission of Jones. Okay, the mission of Jones is for them to develop good leaders. Okay, good leaders in our society through the programs that they have that will be assets to our environment or to our society. And I think being proud parents of 3 graduates of Jones, just a bragging rights. My first son, who's a graduate at Jones, is now a mechanical engineer with the U.S. Air Force. Okay, and he's deployed in the Middle East, doing a good job. Okay, and then my second son is a youth pastor and a Bible school teacher. Okay, and they're very young people. They're in their early 20s, all graduates of Jones. And then my third graduate at Jones is finishing up her BS Bio degree at Northwestern University this summer. This summer. Okay? And the way Jones prepared them under the leadership of Dr. Powers was so amazing that they were so prepared for all of my kids when they went to college. They were at least 1 year ahead of their peers. Why? Because of all those AP classes and everything. And not only did it save us money, they had scholarships. So very good scholarships. So much that, we don't have a debt for them to go to college, to finish college. My third child went to Northwestern, finishing up in 3 months. And she had a full ride at Northwestern. And I give full credit because of the rigorous academic training at Jones College Prep. And that's under the leadership of Dr. Powers. So I don't know what's the big thing that the LSC right now has against Dr. Powers, because with the bad faith that you did, I'm not talking to all of you, but whoever was behind this move, is that it's either they don't know what it takes to run a school, an excellent school at that, or they are just very hostile to Dr. Powers for whatever reason or agenda that they have. If you are very much concerned about the quality of education, which is the reason why we sent our kids to Jones, the quality of education, it's not easy to replace a principal. I'm talking from experience because I come from Edgebrook Elementary. Okay? Over 30 years ago, nobody wanted to go to our neighborhood school. Okay? But we had this excellent principal, Dr. M, who made it the #1 neighborhood school in all of Illinois. But you know what? When she retired, we have had several principals trying to fill her shoes, but our ratings just went down. It just slid. Nobody was able to hold up to the standard of that previous principal. And if you remove Dr. Powers prematurely, everybody at Jones, together with his staff and his other leaders, his leadership team, knows that Dr. Powers is what's holding them together towards achieving excellency. You can ask the student reps in your LSC. We know the sacrifices of Dr. Powers, being away from his family. I have been at Jones parents for 13 years already. And so I know what I'm talking about. And so please, for those of you, consider what you're doing. That's just my request. If you're thinking about what's very best for the students, you will say, let's keep Dr. Powers. And thank you so much.
Thanks. Sarah?
Oh, my only comment was we were over 3 minutes. And then I did have one, there's in the YouTube about if you could talk a little bit about why we did not have to amend the agenda because we voted to move the appointment of the vacant position till April.
we discussed that item, the votes that we took on it were to table it. So that's why, and really, yeah, so that's basically that. We covered that item. Alexandra?
Cassie, sorry, I just wanted to reconfirm some of the things that we talked about with how we treat people during this meetings. At least it looked to me like you turned on your microphone, coughed, and then turned it back off, which, I don't know. It kind of hurt me a lot, especially since we just had a conversation 10 minutes ago about decorum. And frankly, I'm really disappointed if that was the case. I am 17 and I can recognize that that's not okay to do, especially after one of these conversations. And I would appreciate it if you wouldn't do something like that again. That really wasn't okay.
That was not a deliberate cough. I was unmuting so that I could politely try to get in a word in edgewise because I let Miss Nacionales talk for like 5 minutes when she should really have had 3. Okay, so, and then I actually have a cough right now. And so I coughed at the point where I was like trying to like hold a quiet space so I could interrupt and say, please wrap it up. Please, okay? Roberto?
Hi, Ms. Nacionales. I just wanted to say thank you for your comments. Thank you for addressing the LSC and speaking today. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, can I say something too?
Ms.
I
Nacionales,
said,
please,
hold on,
we have 2 more items to get through. It is 7:45. This meeting needs to get to these next 2 items, okay?
but I
So
think
we just have to go.
for your actions.
I'm sorry, you've gotten plenty of time. I don't think you need to follow up any of that. I'm the chair. Your turn is over. We're going to move on to principal evaluation planning. Thank you. If you are not on the council and you're not an administrator here, I think you can hop off the call. So that would be Lainey, Aaron. I think we don't have any more public participation. Sarah, if you can bring up those documents on the principal evaluation planning that I emailed. Let me.
Did you email them to me or to the Jones?
To the full council, actually.
Okay.
Let me put I'll put the link in the drive or in the chat. If I can. So there's a set of slides about the timing on this, and we also have a list of documents, and then we have the self-evaluation career questionnaire that we used last year. Yes, so to review for people, hopefully everyone's done their training on this, and it is basically, there's 2 components for principal evaluation, and half of it is from the school quality rating policy. This may be moot again for this year. It's not really clear. And then the other half is the professional practice rating that the LSC assigns. So basically we have, there's like 5 categories inside the professional practice rating. And each of those categories has key behaviors. And so those 5 are made up of 28 key behaviors. We had the discussion in the fall about adding an additional indicator and couldn't come to an agreement on one. So it's just going to be these. And basically you give a score to each of the key behaviors and combine that for a total final rating score. The sorts of evidence are actually really broad, and that so we do surveys and can use that, but there's also, you know, essentially documents that are part of like the operations of the school. LSC members can actually use their regular interactions with, you know, the school community, including the principal. You can do an interview with the principal. We did a self evaluation questionnaire instead of sitting down and doing an interview. You can also do like school and classroom visits. So this stuff is in the LSC resource guide, and you can find it there. So basically the process for this is we collect our evidence, we have a closed session to just determine scores. This is a personnel matter, so student reps participate, they bring evidence, they participate in the discussion, but they don't count in the votes. And then the LSC approves a final confidential score by May 1st. So that's kind of the timeline here. Then there's another 30 days that the principal can request a feedback session in, and then the LSC can revise the score and resubmit it by May 31st. Yes, so really the thing we need to do this evening is get this timeline down so that we can figure out when we're going to have all our materials together and do surveys, get documents from Dr. Powers, and then have our discussions. Yeah, so basically it all has to fit in from now till May 1st. And I sent 2 other documents along for people to peruse beforehand. One is the self-evaluation questionnaire we used last year. And then one is a list of documents. So we can, the self-evaluation questionnaire probably doesn't need quite as much time as the documents request. So that still needs to be finalized pretty quickly. I think essentially what we did last year is that we, you know, if people had questions they wanted to add, we included them. So I think we could take, let me just try to add it here and have people see it. Yeah, but so that one, I think we just mostly want to figure out the time of when we want to get it to Dr. Powers to get the answers back in a reasonable amount of time. And the documents, there is probably a couple things from last year that need to be adjusted. And let me just make that public and I'll put that in the chat.
Do you want me to share this?
Yeah, I guess we can. I think if we kind of get these dates on here first, then we'll maybe just like kind of like, you know, I put that link there. You guys can all go click through to that. Once we figure out the dates that stuff needs to be due, then it'll make more sense to figure out whether we can finalize this tonight or whether we have a couple more days for people to suggest edits. So looking at the calendar of when our next meeting is, we pretty much have to have at least one special meeting, and I think last year we had 2. Roberto?
So I don't know. I have no questions regarding the principal evaluation. I just wanted to go back to something you asked, like for our student representatives, especially for William and Alexandra, about You mentioned about completing the training modules. So there are 9 modules that all LSC members are expected to complete. But I don't think the Office of Local School Council Relations has, I think their training website isn't functioning, and it hasn't been functioning. So I would, if our student representatives haven't completed or reviewed some of those training modules, I would suggest that you reach out to the Office Local School Council Relations, just so that you can have, I know they have a set of PDFs and you can look at those items.
Yeah, I didn't know that whole site was not working. That's not great. Yes, they should be able to at least give you the slides, because it's really just, slides that you click through, and then there's a couple questions. So, okay. Our regular meeting is going to be the 19th. And yeah, I don't know if we could have stuff. Yeah, I think it's not very realistic to have something before spring break, and not super realistic to have things during spring break. So I think we probably have to pick 2 days, like the 21st and the 26th, or the 25th and the 26th. And yeah, that would be like, so for the closed session, like the initial one, and then we need a backup date for the second one, I think. So it's more of a matter of that last, you mean in March, Sarah?
No, I meant April. Sorry.
Yeah, I think like, so it's more a matter of like the 25th and the 26th, or the 26th and the 27th, or there's concerts that week, but I don't think any of our student reps are in those. So I think that's okay. We're definitely biased to like Tuesday being better, so that should be one of the dates. So it's more of a question, is Monday or Wednesday better for people, or if we had to, Thursday. I didn't even have like definite, we can't do Monday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Sarah.
I prefer Monday. Oh, she can't do Monday. Okay. Wednesdays are rough, but I could figure something out if that's the only day other people can do.
Daniel.
I was also gonna say Monday would be better for me, but I could make Wednesday work, similar to Miss Ma. So.
Yeah, I think we should maybe go with Tuesday and Wednesday then, and hope that like that's reasonable for Kim. Maybe with enough notice, it should work. Okay, so I think let's fill in then the 26th and the 27th for those. Yeah. Sarah?
My question would be, is this something that, I know we're about to talk about going in person, but is this something that we could do virtual?
If we're under the disaster declaration, these can be virtual. So it's more of a matter of knowing. And the good thing about the timing in the month is that the disaster declarations turn over like, the 5th day of the month or something. So we will know with plenty of time before we announce these meetings whether we can do them without an in-person quorum.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so in terms of everything being due, I think basically a week to look over stuff is okay. Does that, if everyone thinks that's reasonable? So basically we'd like to have the survey results and the documents and like the questionnaire from Dr. Powers, probably like the week before on the 19th. Dr. Powers?
Yes, when can I expect to get the questionnaire?
Probably pretty quick, because I don't, it'll just be whatever we edit from last year. So yeah, so we want to set those dates and also like the dates to getting the surveys out. And so we should get you that by like early April, basically.
Because it was hugely time consuming.
Yes.
I'm glad you recognize that.
It's only April 15th. I think we could probably get it to him sooner. That, at least that part of the questionnaire, why we finalize the surveys.
Yeah, I mean, we could finalize the questionnaire tonight if people are happy with it. Or we could say like, get any additional questions by Friday or something, and then we can have it to you by the end of the week, Dr. Powers. Ellen?
I just wanted to notify the council that the PPLC has gotten their survey approved. And I know Kim was planning to talk to Troy about like rolling out a similar survey to non-teaching staff as well. I'm not sure if she's had the chance to do that yet, Troy, but I know that's on the dock.
We briefly talked about it, not in detail.
Roberto?
So just following up on Ellen's question about survey, are the students doing a survey, or the students can do a survey?
They did last year. I think, right? I'm pretty sure Denai did a survey last year. So to give everyone a little bit of background on the survey stuff, you should get your survey examined by the law department. So you've got to leave a little extra space for that. And the parent survey, we need to get translated. So we also need some extra time for that. And go ahead, Troy.
I just want to mention, yeah, there was a student survey. It did not get a ton of responses. So to the student reps, if you need help getting that word out, please see me, and I will make sure that we are getting all the students. I know that the surveys typically get a low response in general, but I think last year's was less than 50.
Okay, William?
Just real quick, thanks so much, Mr. Hilbrands. And then also, do we do students also need a survey when we make a survey? Do we also need it approved by the law department? And if so, how do we get point of contact for survey approval? Okay, got it. Thank you.
And you can look at last year's. If you don't change anything, then it should be good to go. It's not going to be. It doesn't take them long to look at it. So, yes. Anyone else here? Yeah, so I think for April 19th, we will have to get the survey stuff ready by the end of, like, to be released, I think like April 1st or something. Gives people a couple of weeks to complete it. And so probably basically each sort of representative group kind of takes care of their own survey. So yeah. I think people should try to get their surveys done to be sent out and like to be shareable by April 1st. Sarah?
So just for the minutes, so the surveys should be approved and sent out by April 1st. And then returned by when? April 18th, which is a week before our 25th meeting, or? I'm sorry. Yeah, 26th is the first date. So by the 19th, you want everything by the 19th?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, like once you get the survey results back, it's if someone wants to kind of go through and sort them, or I think like Kim did some of that last year for the teacher survey, or maybe it was Kim and Ellen together, and put together kind of like a little summary of it. That was nice. It's not totally crucial. Like people can just look through the answers as well. So I think it's fine to, I'm like for parent survey, I'm fine for like having a due date of the April 18th. If other people are fine with that as well.
Okay, so I'll put due date of 18th for us, or at least for the parent survey.
Yeah, and on this little plan, I'll put another row and we can put the questionnaire in there. So Friday is okay, so probably I think it's realistic for everyone to look at the questionnaire, send me any edits you have, and we can get the full thing to Dr. Powers by the end of the week on the 18th. So that is basically for that. And then for the documents, we should probably try to get those, like the document request list, done almost as quickly. You know, maybe we can do that on the 21st and have that available then. Anyone have thoughts on those dates?
Sounds good to me.
Go ahead, Dr. Powers.
I respectfully request that the document request list be pared down to the essentials. It is extremely comprehensive to the point of it will take between now and May to compile all of this, not only from myself, but from other people on the staff here. And I think a lot of it is unnecessary. So I would appreciate you if you focus on the essentials so I can try to get those to you in a timely manner.
You know, I think we can tell you exactly what we told you last year. Do what you can. Some of these are documents that should be available. And so it speaks to that issue if they're not readily available information that you can provide the LSC.
I obviously disagree with you on that.
Yes, we heard that last year too. Thank you. Go ahead, Roberto.
This is a document dump request.
I was just going to respond to Dr. Powers' request and maybe try to suggest, Dr. Powers, if I'm wondering if it would be helpful if you went through this list, like what you had last year, and just identify things that you don't think that would be a heavy lift or unnecessary, as you mentioned, or paraphrasing, if that would be helpful at all. I'm just trying to work out like what you think might be reasonable.
Thank you.
Rachel?
I just want to say that one of the main responsibilities of local school councils is to practice accountability, and so in that case, it's not just it's not the position of the principal who's being evaluated to determine what is relevant and what is essential or not. And I think the council can take that into consideration when we are looking at this list. But to Roberto's comment, I don't think that's actually appropriate in this instance. It's if a audit was being done on a company to hold the company accountable, this is a bad example, a bad metaphor, but you wouldn't give the company the specifics, to give them the option to, well, look at this, but don't look at this. I just feel like that goes against the point of holding the institution or the leader accountable, which is what we are tasked to do.
Thanks, Rachel. Dr. Powers?
And of course, that's not my point. The amount of data here would take months to compile and a lot of people to do it. We don't always, we have the data, but putting it together in a form that I can present, this would be a massive, massive amount of data to provide. And the question is whether it's necessary or whether it's designed just to simply tie up my time doing this. I'll do what I can.
I think you should be assuming good intentions here, and
I don't know that I
it
can.
speaks to the fact that
Sorry.
the data is not available to you, that you aren't looking at that data on a regular basis. And so we can request,
supposed
you
to be
can let us know
looking
what
at
is not available to you and you cannot provide within a 3-week or 2-week period. That's fine. You can indicate that and we'll just take that into account in the evaluation.
Yeah. So
Okay,
for
thank
example,
you.
breaking out things like teaching assistant program data by race, gender, disability, and free and reduced lunch status, sports teams by that, principal discretion by that, which I've distributed given that some of that information to you. This is so highly detailed data that is not readily there in a form in which it can be reported. I mean, to do this, as you're requesting, would take months. It's not sitting in a file somewhere where it can easily be sent to you. That's all I'm saying. We had the same conversation last year at this time.
There's also a long list of documents, and I think we got very few documents last year, and that was also an issue. So please look at the document list as well.
We'll get you the documents.
Ellen?
This is on a different topic, but I saw a question from Sarah brought from the YouTube chat about the parent surveys. I cannot speak to the parent survey, but for the teacher survey, it's literally each question is just asking for the competency, whether you strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, or cannot comment on the presence of that competency. And those I think are available to reference somewhere. I'm sorry, I don't have that link right now to drop. But again, that is what the teacher survey looks like. I believe from last year, the parent survey was similar. And again, that was in response to the question from the YouTube.
Yeah, so it's not like really a scale, unfortunately, in the behaviors that the LSC rates. And so, you know, the law department wants surveys to somehow match the competency and the key behaviors, which there's not really any justification for that. But the actual responses on the surveys, then we just reused actually what had been done the year before last year, and so it's a little bit questionable in terms of quality of surveys. And I think one more thing to make clear to everybody, the surveys are a source of information, but the survey isn't the source of the rating. So, you know, it's just another way to gather feedback and to gather information. And I think, yes. So if we are to share this document and information request by the 21st, I think please get your input to me by like Saturday. If you, and then if you have any additions to the self-evaluation questionnaire, try to get that to me basically Thursday. And then we can send the questionnaire to Dr. Powers on Friday, and the data request list on Monday. Roberto?
So your timeline didn't include like the optional principal feedback session if Dr. Power chooses to chooses to have one.
That's after May 1st. So then there's like a whole 30 days between. So our first deadline is May 1st, and then like our final deadline is the 30th. So that 30 days is when you can have a feedback session. Yeah. So, I mean, you could get the whole thing done before May 1st and fit all that in earlier, but I don't think that's realistic this year. Yeah, so I think those are all the dates we need for that. And definitely for newer members or ones who haven't done principal evaluation before, at least get a hold of those slides. And the LSC reference guide goes into a lot of detail too, and probably is just as helpful as the LSC training slides, really. Okay, so I think we can move on to number 9. So if we are to move to in-person meetings, what the logistical needs are, I think we kind of covered this. The actual, to make these meetings accessible, they need to be streamed and recorded. So really capturing all the speech clearly for both, a recording and a live stream, I think is really important. So I think that's kind of like one of the key parts about the logistics. And also figuring out like if we have a lot of attendance and the standard place is the library, do you need to have an overflow room? That's actually acceptable, but I suspect that, attendees would not be happy to come in person and then be put into the overflow room. So having a large space from the start is preferable. And I think, as Sarah brought up, especially for the closed session principal evaluation meetings, as long as the disaster declaration is still in effect, it makes sense to just do those as virtual meetings completely if we don't have to have an in-person quorum. Yeah, so for the April 19th meeting, that meeting is late enough in the month that we will know with plenty of time whether the disaster declaration holds. So I think, if people want to have that in person, that's fine. I'm happy to indulge that. And even if the disaster declaration has been lifted, but I think it's a real question, the response of the community, and to have it be something that all the council members are actually going to feel comfortable being there in person. Sarah?
Yeah, I'm super happy to come in person and have the meeting. Just to clarify a few things, we only need, is it 8 now instead of 7 in person? We need 8 people at least to be in person, but theoretically the rest can join virtually. And so I don't know if Troy is able to interject here from a tech perspective. Do you, I also really value the transcript I get from the Google Meet. So I would be really interested in having the ideal situation where I could join the Google Meets, we could stream that, and then I could still share slides. So during the stream, the home community can see that. And I don't know if there's a way to link my computer to the projector so that I could also, or your computer to the projector, and we could both be on the Meet, and then you could share the documents, and then I could have the transcript. I don't know. I'm just thinking of a way, when Lane Tech went to in-person meetings, I found the streaming to be less than satisfactory. It was very difficult to hear everyone. So just looking for your perspective on that, Troy, from a tech perspective. And I think meeting in person might help to mend some of the feelings that we're having tonight. I don't want to fix everything. I'm not trying to fix. I want us to feel these things, but I think it would help us to work together.
Rachel?
Yeah, to kind of build off of that, I wonder if it would be a possibility to continue to have, if individuals want to give public comment, but don't have the capacity to come in person, is that still going to be an option in person? That's like my biggest question, because we do have a lot of public comment often. And it would be great, I think, to keep that as an option for people if they want to participate, but don't want to have to come all the way to the school.
Thanks, Rachel. Troy?
So it's all gonna have to be about testing and the location. If it's in the library, it could be one thing. If it's in the cafeteria or in the auditorium, it all depends, and we would definitely have to test things beforehand. But I think it's doable.
Daniel?
I would be super excited to go back as well. And also, I think someone brought up stuff about masks and then how comfortable people are going to be in situations where there's a lot of people. So I think we should take that into account as well. But also time. These meetings do run long, and I don't mind that virtually. I kind of like it because we go in depth into a lot of issues. But if that's going to happen in person as well, I find that as an issue because I do not want to stay at the school until 9 o'clock. Thank you, Dr. Powers and Mr. Hilbrand, for doing that. Well, sorry, my mom's yelling at me, but I wouldn't want to do that. So just have that taken into account, but I would totally be down to go in person.
Thanks, Daniel. And Sarah?
I think that if we are able to provide a high quality streaming option where people could give public comment virtually and still be able to potentially have their YouTube comments, then I think the library might be sufficient. And it sounds like the tech might be easier in the library. I know you said you have to test, Troy. My testing is great. Like if you want me to come and do some testing, let me know. And then I also think for those that, if we felt like it was going to be a long meeting, they could have the option to join virtually as long as we have 8 people at the school.
Roberto?
Yeah, so I'm in favor of moving into in person as long as we're taking COVID mitigations in the school, which I believe the school has done a great job of that, and that we are going to stream our meetings. I think that's important. I know I have a few parents have expressed that we should continue streaming these meetings so that they're accessible through YouTube, even if they cannot attend the LSC meetings in person. So I think that's going to be important. And I know, Troy, this is going to land on you to test the equipment, make sure that we're able to stream that either at the library or some other location within the school. So I'm definitely in favor of that. And then as far as public comments, I know the Board of Education for the city of Chicago, they have call-in numbers. So if we're unable to facilitate the live stream and allow public participation through the live stream and display their their image. I think the alternative option, and I think it's a viable option, is just to have a call-in number. It's what the Board of Education does for folks who aren't in person and providing comments. So that would be an alternative.
Yeah, I think that's definitely would be helpful. And Ellen?
I just wanted to volunteer to collaborate on trying to set up some of these logistics. I have done hybrid teaching and hybrid meetings. So I think that I can perhaps be helpful in this space. I don't want to volunteer Kim because that seems unfair. But I'll talk to her and see if there's like some input that she has and other teachers as well, because again, we've had a lot of experience with the hybrid format.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember also the use of Wi-Fi. Like if I'm bringing a laptop and I would want to be on Wi-Fi, I think, or at least some people probably will, to have all of our documents there and accessible. It's probably going to be the easiest thing. Okay. I think that's it for hands. I do want to put so I think we should plan for the 19th. Like the whole point of being able to have the chair deem that it's not safe to meet in person. I think, that's like a lot of weeks into the future. And unfortunately, there's not actually that much predictable about the current levels of COVID. So if it gets to later in the month, it could be that it only makes sense by April 19th to have it virtual again. And so we can make that decision within a few days of April 19th if need be. Okay. I think that is it for that item. And so seeing no other further business, we can adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good night. Thank you.